Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and we're going to be talking about this full moon and Sagittarius that we have. This is going to be happening really late this evening, pretty much going into early Sunday morning here on the East Coast. So, pretty much May 30th through the 31st. At the end of May already almost halfway through the year. Can you believe it? It's amazing. We are in Gemini season, of course, so we are getting closer and closer to that summer solstice, right? At least here in the northern hemisphere, closer to the winter solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere. So let's talk about this full moon. Of course, full moons are all about releases, right? And that's the stereotypical thing that you always hear. Full moon is a time of release. It's where the energy peaks. It's where it becomes magnanimous, and then everything is reflected, and then you are forced to confront the things that you have been hiding from yourself that are hidden deep within your subconscious, but they peek out every so often. The full moon allows us to address these things so we can evolve, transmute, and move forward. Now, of course, this one is in Sagittarius. The interesting thing about this moon as well is that it has mutual reception with the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, which is in Cancer, the sign that the moon rules. So, this is definitely going to be a full moon where we're going to have to release a lot of these self-limiting beliefs that we have, because this isn't necessarily about what you believe, it's about what you know. And we've all have gone through these experiences, especially over these last few years. We have collected a ton of data, if you will, and we're having to sift and siphon through all of that data to see what is real, what is not, what is fake, what is true, what is authentic, what is a farce. There's a lot of stuff to sift through. And that's why right now it's so easy to fall victim to these shadow campaigns. It's so easy to fall victim to the fakery out there, to what has been a bastardization of the truth. It's easy to fall into that. Sagittarius is all about belief, right? And the positive thing about it is that, if we really do believe in ourselves, if we really believe in something, it can become large, it can become magnanimous, and it can grow, because that's what Jupiter wants to do. But Gemini is about facts and it's about truth. It doesn't necessarily care about the beliefs. It's trying to see what is true, what is written down, what is readily right there in front of your face. This is the truth. Doesn't necessarily care about the way that you feel about it. And that's going to be the tough thing about this, because if we get too caught up in these emotional connections to certain beliefs, that we have probably collected some data to suggest that these things may not be true, or it's stretching the truth, then if we try to, subconsciously or even consciously try to go against those facts, this is when we're going to feel the discord within our soul, within our spirit. And that's the interesting thing about this full moon, right? So let's hop into the chart so we can just take a look at this. So at the time of me making this is 12:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Saturday. We have the moon, which has just recently shifted into Sagittarius after the last couple of days of being in the deep, dark depths of Scorpio, and everyone's feeling these deeper emotions, if you will. I know for me, it was a little, it was a little deep and stuff like that. I was kind of thinking over different parts of my life and just saying, like, where can I make some changes, because things were starting to feel a little bit mundane. And while I had initiated some changes in my own personal life, I still felt like I was sort of just in, the rhythm and the beat of the life that I have manifested at this point, and it was starting to feel a little bit boring. It was starting to feel a little bit mundane, so I was having to confront all these different things of how can I switch things up? How can I make things more dynamic? This full moon can hopefully give us an opportunity to make things a little bit more dynamic as we move forward throughout the rest of this year. So we do, like I said, we have this moon here in Sagittarius. It's going to be building up, and what's interesting about this full moon is that it is going to be with two of the royal stars of Aldebaran here in Gemini, representing the heavens, and Archangel Michael. And then, of course, we have Antares down here, the red giant down here in Sagittarius, right? So, and this is a star of the Antares is a tough star. If there was a ghetto star of the four stars, it's Antares. And I don't mean ghetto necessarily in a bad way. I think Antares is just He goes to the beat of his own drum. That is for sure. He's a little bit more on your face. He's a little bit more warlike. He's a little bit more like, yo, I'm gonna get things done no matter what, by any means necessary. That's kind of what Antares, vibe is. And with it being here in Sagittarius, this is when, people could take their beliefs and beat you over the head with it. It's like, no matter what it takes, I'm going to make you believe this. Or they're going to do their best to make you believe it. That's the crazy thing about this Antares energy. It kind of has the nature of Mars. Where's Mars? Mars is over here in Taurus, just chilling by itself in Taurus. And this is when we have to actually take some action when it comes to our self-worth, our value. And if you don't know your self-worth, you don't know your value, then the actions that you take aren't going to reflect that. It's going to reflect something that's going to be more so against, your best interest, if you will, right? So let's go ahead and just move this forward to the actual moment of the full moon. And we're going to see that it's pretty much going to happen right here, pretty much at like 9 degrees going into 10 degrees of Sagittarius and Gemini respectively. And we can see that they are with Aldebaran and Antares. We also have Mars at 9 degrees as well at the time of this. So there's a harmony of energy between this sun, between this moon, which is with Antares, which has, like I said, the nature of Mars. And Mars is here in Taurus at 9 degrees. And there's a bit of mutual reception almost here too, in a sense, only because Antares is here amplifying this moon and it has the nature of Mars, and the moon is exalted in Taurus. So, and like I said, we also have to take into consideration that Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is here in Cancer, which the moon rules. Venus is also here getting closer to Jupiter. Mercury here at the edge of this Gemini energy. This is a very, like I said, this full moon can definitely help us to relieve a lot of these self-limiting beliefs so we can actually start to walk in truth more. The problem is that it's going to be a very emotional moon. Jupiter wants what it wants. Sagittarius wants what it wants. And a lot of times people will look at Jupiter as this benefic planet. It's considered one of the benefics because it can bestow, fortune and expansion. But we also have to think about it also from the aspect that Jupiter is Zeus. And Zeus is a bit of a playboy. He doesn't necessarily care to do things per se the right way. Zeus was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to turn into all these different animals. I'm going to impregnate all these women. He was an absolute playboy, right? And Jupiter kind of, Zeus had this whole idea of who he was in his head, right? And built up this whole image of who he was. When really, he was kind of an asshole. If we're going to be real about it, he was kind of an asshole. People will look at Pluto. People are like, oh, Pluto rules Scorpio, Pluto's the underworld, blah, blah, blah. Pluto was faithful to his wife. Unlike Jupiter, unlike Neptune, Pluto was faithful. Jupiter is not faithful. Jupiter is always looking for the next adventure, for the next rush, for the next high. So that's the problem with this energy, is that with this full moon, it's going to reveal these emotional highs that you've been chasing. But that's the thing with these emotional highs. The first time that you feel that high, you're never going to be able to match that because it's a brand new experience. Jupiter's always looking for something brand new, a new adventure. But when you continually try to engage, trying to reach that same high that you got the first time, it's never going to quite match up, but you get addicted to it as well. So there's an addictive quality to the emotions that we're going to be feeling with this full moon that are needed to be released, that are needed to be transformed. Remember, emotions are water. It's meant to flow. It's meant to move, right? So we have to look at, are we damming up certain emotions because we want to hold on to them? Are we damming up certain beliefs, certain feelings? Are we just keeping this dam up because we don't want this water to flow out because we're worried that if we allow this water to flow out of this dam, that we're not going to be replenished? And that whatever that's going to be replenished is not going to match the same high that we got when the water first flowed into this dam, and then we tried to, hoard onto it. This is a kind of a hoarding moon as well. Taurus, like I said, Mars is here in Taurus. These are actions that we have been hoarding, if you will, thinking that's going to lead to the promised land, thinking that it's going to lead to the next great adventure. But these are just cycles. These are scripts that we are constantly running and constantly repeating. Look at this. We have Chiron here at the end of Aries. Talk about... I had like 5 thoughts that flew into my head at the same time. Talk about your character and who you are, your wounds, your traumas. Talk about it being on edge. Talk about it being on the chopping block. Talk about it being brought before God and being like, despite these things, are you going to continue to tell yourself the same story of who you are? Are you going to continue to tell yourself that you are a victim? Are you going to continue to tell yourself that because all of these different things happen to you, that's why you are who you are? And not taking any level of personal responsibility or accountability. Because yes, there are some things that happen to all of us, and it happens to all of us. There are things that happen to all of us that are outside of our control, that do hurt, that do wound us, that do traumatize us. But at some point, we have to be able to take the power back into our own hands and realize that our spirit is infinite. We are a spirit and a body, or the body's in the spirit. Our spirit is infinite, and our spirit doesn't know any bounds. It doesn't. It's bound by this body temporarily, but it's not. But that's the thing. Our spirit is beyond the body as well. It's beyond this life. It's beyond this experience. It's infinite. I mean, there are infinite possibilities. So you are not these things. That's the thing. If you are defining yourself by your traumas, by your wounds, by your scars, instead of how you're able to overcome them, about who you are, who you can become, that's what we need to look forward. This is about looking towards the future. Remember, Sagittarius. That's the thing with Sagittarius. It's the archer. But the thing about it is that, like, in order for us to really move forward, we have to pull the arrow back first. So there is an element with the full moon. Whenever you get a full moon in Sagittarius, it's talking about how instead of just go, 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 which is what Sagittarius wants to do, it's like, okay, wait, where can you pull back, step back, see the bigger picture, aim, fire? Instead of just fire, 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 fire. You can't launch an arrow without pulling back. Otherwise, it's just going to fall to the ground. And this is what we are all doing in some area of our life, whether we're conscious of it or not. We're not pulling back the arrow to fire. We just think that we can just go. And it doesn't work that way. Because we're trying to chase a high. We're trying to chase an emotional high. We're trying to chase a feeling that we had once that we can't really get back to. It's about how can we create new feelings? How can we create new experiences? How can we create new emotions? How can we experience something else? How can we go on new adventures? But the only way that we're going to be able to do that is if we accurately prepare for it. You can't just decide to go. I mean, you can just go on a vacation on a whim, but there's a little bit of preparation that has to go into this. You got to prepare. You got to save money. You got to pack. You know, you can't just like I could in theory right now just get up and just drive to a city or a state that I've never been to, but I'm not really prepared. I had to like literally in this exact moment I could, but I'm not prepared. I don't have my wallet on me. It's in the room, right? I have my phone and stuff, but I don't have any clothes packed. I have no idea necessarily where I'm going. And sometimes life does take us on these adventures where we don't know where we're going, but there's still a level of preparation that needs to be had here. The sun, of course, is here in Gemini, with Uranus, with Aldebaran, with Mercury. Here at 27 degrees, getting ready to come into this nice sextile with Chiron as well. So there, like I said, there is an opportunity for us to, be a little bit more curious in our life, to expand in that way, to expand our mind, to kind of get out and meet new people, have new experiences, instead of doing the same old, same old, same old. This full moon is looking to break up some of the monotony and the mundaneness that we might have been experiencing over the last few months. Because even though there's a lot of things that have been happening around us externally in the world and geopolitics and international politics, when you look at your own life, has there been any stagnation at all? I would say that at least over the last month, some of that stagnation has started to be chiseled away and broken up. But we still haven't quite made that full shift, right? This full moon is going to allow us to make that full shift, if you will. And like I said, this is about knowing versus belief, right? Knowing versus belief. And this is the interesting thing about it. Astrology is mercurial. It's knowing. This is why when people say that I don't believe in astrology, my response is like, astrology isn't something that you believe in. It's something that you know. I can't be like, oh, I believe the moon is in Pisces. No, the moon is in Sag. Or depending upon, there are different, of course, ways that you can look at it. The moon could be in Scorpio, depending upon if you look at it from like a Vedic point or something like that. But I can't just be like, let's take a planet that doesn't move fast, like Pluto. Pluto's in Aquarius. I can't just be like, oh, I believe in my heart of hearts that Pluto is actually in Leo right now. No. Pluto's in Aquarius. That's the thing about it. No matter what I believe, the planets are going to be where they are, and the planets are going to move at the speed that they move at. That is fixed. It's not a belief, it's knowing. Belief can change. Belief is more malleable, but these are facts. And yes, even though Mercury, which does rule facts in many ways, and yes, it's in Gemini, which is a malleable sign, but it's also about curiosity and trying to know the facts, learn the facts, trying to acquire different things, and then catalog them. So we all have cataloged over the course of all these experiences that we have had, especially over these last several years. We've cataloged all of this stuff, and now we're getting to the point of, all right, what are you going to do with this information? Especially as some of this energy starts to kind of break apart. We still, of course, have Neptune and Saturn here in Aries, but Chiron is getting ready to finally move out of Aries. Mars has moved into Taurus. We have Uranus that's in Gemini. We have Pluto that's in Aquarius. You got to understand, a lot of these planets have shifted. A lot of these outer planets have shifted here recently in the last few years. So we are moving into a new world, right? Pluto spent a ton of time. Pluto was in Capricorn. It went there in 2008? I think was it 2008 or anyways. Pluto spent a lot of time in Capricorn, right? Neptune spent a lot of time in Pisces. Saturn does move a little bit faster, but Saturn was still dealing with all these energies, stuff like that. Of course, we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that happened in Aquarius. Oh no, was that Aquarius? No, that wasn't Aquarius. That was actually. No, it was actually Capricorn that happened in, right? Yeah, that was in Capricorn that happened. But like I said, it's like we've had all this energy that's finally starting to shift, right? Uranus was in Taurus for a while. Neptune has been in Pisces for a while, just like I said, back in 2019. Neptune was just getting past the midpoint of Pisces, right? Pluto spent a ton of time in Capricorn, and now we are finally to the point where this energy is really starting to shift. And it has shifted. Right? Pluto's not going to go back into Capricorn. I think Chiron will peak back into Aries. I'm pretty sure that, I know Saturn is done with Pisces. I'm pretty sure Neptune is done with Pisces. And as far as Uranus and Gemini, I'm pretty sure it retrogrades back in briefly. If we just look at it, it's going to be at 5 degrees, 4, 3, 2. No, it does not. Uranus does not go back into Gemini. We're done with that. So a lot of these energies that we have been experiencing over the last 5 to 6 years, it's done. So we can't really, if we act in the way that we acted over the last 5 to 6 years, thinking that we're going to produce something new, you're just going to get the old world. This is about moving into something new, something fresh. So it's not going to give you the same results. You can't just be chasing the same old high. It's not going to get you to those heights. It's not going to get you to the heavens. Gemini, this whole Taurus, Gemini, the Pleiades, stuff like that, Aldebaran, it's not going to get you to the heavens. That's the thing about this, right? So we can move this forward just a little bit. We'll go to like the third quarter moon. We'll see that moon's going to pass over Pluto, of course, which is retrograde at the moment. It's the only retrograde planet right now. You know, about 16, 17 degrees. You know, that moon's going to be, we've got that third quarter square of the moon in Pisces to the sun, 17 degrees. By this point, Mercury is going to have shifted into Cancer. So things are really going to get emotional right here. But we also are going to have, as you can see, Venus and Jupiter beginning to make their major conjunction. And these are considered the two benefic planets, and they are going to be in Cancer. So things are going to be very emotional right here, you know. And that's the thing about, but there's also could be a lot of magic with this sort of transit as well, right? And then, of course, we'll get to that new moon, which is going to be happening around 24 degrees of Gemini. By this point, Venus would have shifted into Leo, initiating hot girl summer, if you will. Mars here at 20 degrees, right? And we still don't have any other planets retrograde besides Pluto, right? The nodes here at the very edge of their respective signs, South Node getting ready to conjunct Regulus, which recently shifted into Virgo not that long ago. So, like I said, this is a full moon. Yes, there's a lot about beliefs here. Yes, there's a lot about our emotions and the way that we feel about these beliefs. But this is really about knowing versus belief. And the fact of the matter is that you have acquired a lot of information, a lot of data. And now you are sorting through these things. This full moon is going to be a test, and it's going to show you probably a self-limiting belief that you have had that it's time to let go. It's time to allow that water to finally flow out of that dam so new experiences and new feelings and new things can start to flow into it. And this is about, like, you know, this is about appreciating things in the moment. I think we are all trying to capture moments and just keep them. And, you know, that's what photos are for. That's what pictures are for. That's what memories are for. And that's what we do. We like to capture moments. We like to relive things. We like to reminisce. Nothing wrong with reminiscence. Nothing wrong with nothing wrong with having the memories or reminiscing. There's nothing wrong with the nostalgia. This is definitely a full moon that's going to be pulling on nostalgia as well. Nothing wrong with that. But why don't we create new memories and new experiences that we can look back fondly on in 15 to 20 years. Let's create some new nostalgia, right? Let's create some new things to reminisce on. Instead of just focusing on the things that are past, that are done, that are quite frankly dead, for being honest. That don't really have much life to them. It's time to move forward. So I'm going to draw a card, and then we're going to go ahead and get out of here. So gotta make my way. I don't have too much time because I am working later on this afternoon. But I figured I'd pull a card. I haven't pulled a card from this deck in a while. It's my Sacred Geometry Oracle deck. It's one of my favorite decks. I haven't used it in quite a while, but I wanted to make sure that I did this for you all today. You know, so. Alright. Oh, we had a card that just flew right on out. That's letting me know that this is probably the energy that's leaving. Ooh, the throat chakra. The throat chakra. The frequency of the throat chakra, the blue flower of life, supports our self-expression and our sense of peace and balance. We need to let go of the things that once brought us peace and balance but are now causing discord in our life. It's time for us to let go of saying the same thing and expecting a different result. This is letting me know that our throat chakras are blocked, and it's time to release those blockages. That's what's being released. Now what's coming in? What could potentially come in with this full moon? I have, discernment, of course. Discernment. The frequency of discernment supports our ability to view the world and the people around us from a place of inner balance and detachment, yet with compassion and wisdom. I actually really, really like that. We have become too attached in many ways to a lot of the aspects of this world, especially when it comes to politics and stuff. We have become too attached and thinking that everyone has to think like us, everyone has to feel the same way that we do, everyone has to believe the same things that we do. We have to have discernment and know when to detach from these things, but still come at things, like this card says, from a place of compassion and wisdom. Detachment doesn't mean that you don't care. And I think that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of detaching from things. They're afraid that they detach themselves from this political party or this belief or this ideology or this cause that they're championing. They feel like if they're detaching from these things that it makes them a bad person or that they don't care. That's not true. It's about, we need to come back to the center. We need to come back to our own inner wisdom and the compassion that we can feel from that place. That is true inclusion, not this fake performative inclusion and fake performative compassion and empathy that we're saying. It comes from a place of balance, detachment, which is not bad, right? Detaching isn't bad. It doesn't make you a bad person. I feel like that's what people think, that they detach themselves from these things that makes them a bad person. No, this is about finding that inner balance and coming from a place of wisdom and true compassion, not all this fake empathy that's been going on. I swear that word has been co-opted here lately. Empathy, empath, it's all been co-opted. It doesn't mean the same thing that it used to. Anyways. Anyways, y'all take care. Stay blessed. Have a wonderful full moon in Sagittarius, Swagatarius experience. I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.